crashes are taking place, who, in which areas exactly, in order for the prevention. Remember, these observatories are for public health prevention purposes. So no global, national, granular collect data at the subnational level. Now we have our only and most important, Qasim Aish, is from the non-communicable diseases division in the WHO headquarters, and he is the master of the 2015 global, what is it called? Road traffic accident.
Global status report on rail safety.
Exactly. Thank you. Please welcome Qasim.
Thank you. Let's start with first, before I start just in my slides, I want just to thank Maria for her good presentation and the effort that she and the other team making to create this the observatory. And can I have the slide? Not this one. Non, la troisième. Ouais. Okay. Today I will just give an idea about the data that we received since 2007, because we collect the first report was published in 2009, but the data that we have in that report, it was for 2007. And after that we published the second and the third one. And we are working to launch the fourth one in December. The data, the content for my presentation will be just the data sources and the definition used in the country based on the data that we received from questionnaires, and some challenges in data, giving some examples from countries that to try to improve the quality of the data, and the conclusion. The first slide is given just all the sources of the data that we have. The main sources of the data that we have is police data, health sector, vital registration or vital deaths, certification, and some combined sources, and some data. Sometimes we have some data from insurance. And the main sources in general from all the data that we received is from police data. As you can see here, for example, almost 70% of all the data that we received related to traffic crash is 70% from police. And we can see, for example, from vital registration, only 2% that we received, because in our questionnaire we suggest the country to give us the best data that they think representing the reality of the country. And this is the reality of the source of the data, and almost all the data that we received from police. And the combined sources sometimes from police and sometimes from health. We have 23%. For the sources of the data or the type of the data that we request from each sector, for example, from police, we ask to have from police, we request to have some information about the crashes, number of crashes, the type of the crash, number of vehicle, and which type of vehicle, which area, the zone, and for health, we are asking for fatal or no fatal injuries, which age, and if there is some following up after the crash to the hospital, some data if there is linked the main source of the crash, is it alcohol or drug? This is what we ask from health sector, and there is many other sources of the data that we request to give at least the minimum of the data. And the minimum of the data, we share this type of minimum of data in our report, and also we published in 2010 just one book only for the data system, how to improve the data system. You start what you have and continue to improve by subject and by type and by your target, what you want to achieve with your data. This is just a presentation of the under-reporting of the data that we published in our report. And I'll jump just to the definitions that we used or we noted in our report is that at scene, that for 24 hours after crash, and the main or that we suggest to the transport or the police data to use is that within 30 days, and unlimited time is only specifically for vital registration or vital death. And for this definition, last definition, we will discuss more this afternoon and tomorrow about it, and we will give some practical exercise how to improve data by integrate different sources. And as I said, there is some formula to do it and to improve it. And we expect to have some people from Morocco, especially from police and from health, that we can do more exercise. Yeah, but what is the gap? Doing some process mapping, and if there is another countries with different sources of sectors, it will be good for us because we have some experts. We have Daniel Kobos and we have Doris, and we're expert on improving vital and general for all causes of death. Based on our data that we received, we have 60% representing 30 days as definition. This is 30 days based on just the request that we put it in the questionnaire. We asked them what is the definition. And when we ask them, give us there is some law or some article that show the definition is 30 days, we had a problem to get this definition from countries. And also the same for unlimited time. Unlimited time because sometimes there is no definition at all in any document in the country, and just they take unlimited time. And this is an example for improving the following up. This is especially from Turkey. This is in 2014. Yeah, we received in our report we asked them what is the definition that you use for road crash death. They said 30 days. They died within 30 days. But seriously, there is no follow-up. But after they did a good job, they tried to follow up after the crash 30 days and contacting the health and the hospitals. They come up with double. For example, yeah, you can see 2015, the number of deaths that they received, it was 3,800. And when they check to follow up, they have another 3,000, and the total, instead of having just 3,000, the total was 7,000. Same on 2016. This is just only following up between the crash and 30 days after the crash. And for the vital registration, you should add at least 20% more, because the definition is unlimited time. This is another issue. This is another comparison between, as Maria said, that there's a big difference, big gaps between reported data and estimated data. And what I want to show you just here for some difference from sources of the data in some countries. For example, Argentina has good vital registration data. The completeness of all the data is more than 80%. And we can see, for example, from the same country, we have 6,000 for the same year, and from police we have just 5,000. If we can take, for example, Canada, we have 300, the difference, 30%. Cuba, Portugal, also like 30% the difference. And our estimation was based on the quality of vital registration. It's not just for police data. As health sector, WHO is the health sector, and trying to improve all the data for all the causes of death. It's not just for road crash death, or for all the causes of death. We are pushing hard just to improve the vital registration data. Then we are focusing more on vital registration, and based on that, we did some modeling to estimate the other countries. This is the type of the codes that we are used or we collect based. This is the code by ICD 10. We had some different 8, 9, and now we are preparing for ICD 11, and the code is still improving. And this is the code that we received from the country. But normally for Africa, we have just a few countries that sent WHO some data about vital registration data. This is an example of what Etienne, my director, said this in the beginning, in the opening, the example of Thailand. In the report that what we received from them, it was around 8,000. And when they did the integrate data and they merged all different sectors, they get 21,000. And our estimation, it was close to 24,000. The same methodology did recently for 2016 data from Dominican Republic, and reported that it was 1,000 integrated data merging almost all sectors, or different sectors, 3,000, and the estimate figure it was almost the same. This is some sources of the data available for anyone. For example, for WHO, we have our report, and the next report will be in December, and 7th December. And for the global health estimate, this is new. We have a global health estimate. This is the estimate for all causes of death by group of age and by sex and by region. And also by income. This is for all causes of death. We have in this the second link. We have the estimate for 2016. And also our global stage report is publishing 2016 data. But for this estimate for road traffic deaths is just projection. But for us, we did redid the model again based on the recent data that we received. And another thing about the data, in the previous report that we published, that the number of deaths, or if we can judge the trend of the data, or the shape of the trend of the data between 2007 and 2013, it was plateau. But based on the updated data, it's not plateau, it's increasing. It's a lot. It's around 1.4 million. And we are not sure that we can achieve the target for 2020, but we expect to have some reduction in 2030. And we have some data visualization that we can see. You can select your country, and you have what exists in legislation and what is the best practice in the legislation that you have. And we will update also this one by the 7th. We will have a new version. And other sources of the data that we have, as Maria said, we have, now you can we have Safer Africa. African Road Safety Observatory is the same name, but we have some data. And after 2019, the FIA and World Bank and ERTA will continue with the same database platform of the data. We have different sources of the data. HME, this is GBD data, the difference estimation, also using some mathematical models to estimate the data. The conclusion of my presentation, there are different sources of road traffic injuries data for different and complementary purposes. And underreporting and linking sources are key quality of the data. And we need to improve vital registration, or CRBS, safer registration and vital statistics, data coverage, And we suggest if you want just to spend some time this afternoon or tomorrow morning with us to understand what we are doing with improving the data instead of improving all the vital registration data. Thank you.
Many thanks, Qasim. Very valuable information, very valuable presentation. Noting that CRBS systems, as mentioned by Qasim, is the better source of information if the system is functional. Now we have, again, our very own Doris Mafat. She has been working with mortality statistics in WHO as far as 30 years back, when she was still out of school immediately. So she's the guru of mortality statistics in WHO. Doris Mafat, over to you.
Yes, good morning everyone. So I could speak French. Unfortunately, you won't have the translation into English. So I'll speak English for the presentation. What Azad said to me is true. I started in WHO well before some people are born here, 33 years ago. So I've seen the challenges in the data, how to get better data, from countries, and how things start to improve gradually. So when Maria came to see me in early this year about improving data through civil registration, and I'm very over precautious because it means changing a system, improving, and it's multi-sectoral. It's not something to happen now, but it's a long-term investment which actually would be beneficial for everyone, not only for road traffic, deaths data, but for cardiovascular, infectious diseases, everything. So that's beneficial. So when Maria spoke to me, my glass was empty, sort of. And after she spoke to me, after half an hour, my glass was full. I said, I agree, we can move ahead. We have the same conviction. That is very important before we work together. So that's the small story to start with. So, presentation, please. No, not this one. The one with the CRBS. The second one. So these are two pictures. As you can see, one is a road accident, and the other one is taking a body out of a village house in Liberia. That was an Ebola outbreak. Something in common is the cause of death information. We need to capture all this information in one place. So our motto is every death should be counted and every death should be registered. Seems easy, but it's a real challenge in some countries. So counting, how do you count? You need to use an integrated system to ensure every death everywhere in the country is recorded. And also if you have your residents who are traveling abroad for a holiday, in Marrakesh for example, not here, but in Spain, and died there. Someone should report it to the country they come from. So you need a system to ensure that every resident death is registered, avoid double counting of deaths. Like for road traffic, the police would count, the CRB system would also count. And then compiling all the death records in one place for policymakers. So civil registration, definition is a continuous, permanent, compulsory and universal recording of the occurrence and characteristics of vital events pertaining to the population as provided for decree or regulation in accordance with the legal requirements in each country. And it's done through a law. There's a law which says, and you will see that, you're familiar with civil registration when you go and get a birth certificate, marriage certificate. It's an office to go, a death certificate. But what do we do with the information there? They should be, in fact, also include the cause of death, linked to the cause notification and registration process. So, because it's CRBS. So CR is civil registration, That's the law part of it. You go and get your certificate. The vital statistics, the data from civil registration contribute to vital statistics. And you can see where the health sector is oh, sorry. Let me get back. Sorry. The health sector is where we have the live births, the deaths, the fatal deaths that contribute to the civil registration. In many countries, the hospital play a key role in it. All the birth and death happening in hospital are being captured by the Ministry of Health. How do we produce, send it to the civil registration for registration? And that's information constitutes the vital statistics. And you have also, for vital statistics, other source of information like coronary, police registries, health records also contribute to create these vital statistics. So, example of Kenya, the integrated approach system, the CRVS system. You see on your left, a death happened in Kuwait, in a hospital. How it gets recorded in the medical record and then goes in the National Center of Information on the left. If it's outside of Kuwait, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is involved. Yeah, sorry. No, it's not working. No, it doesn't matter. Sorry, I'm trying to get the pointer. No, it's okay. So for example, you have somebody dying in hospital, like in the prison, and I don't need it. In prison, in a refugee camp, anywhere in the country, there should be a system to record all these, and they should be also integrated. So as the WHO, we have a mandate. The mandate, when countries become a member state of the WHO, they are obliged to compile and publish annually for each calendar year statistics on causes of death. They are obliged to adopt a form of medical certificate of the cause of death, the standard one, which the WHO recommends, not anything, but the standard one. And they are obliged to provide WHO with this information. So we can use this mandate really to also, as an engagement on our part, to help them to improve the system. If they cannot have a system, they don't have a system, they cannot send the data to us. So we should be realistic in a way and committed. So CRVS is a broad agenda. Birth is UNICEF, who's working a lot on it. And WHO, we focus on the death part. So we set the standards. We need standards to be able to make the data comparable. So the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems to go and compare causes. And that's the Green Book. This is like a Bible, a Quran, I'm sorry. So in each hospital, this book exists, you know? And they use it also to code morbidity. Somebody going to hospital for treatment. There's a cause for mental disorder, or cancer, and goes up even to then drowning, road traffic deaths, you know, all these. It's a 10,000 codes in there. The international form of medical certificate of the cause of death to record all conditions relating to the death. This is the one which the doctors complete in handwriting. And the ICD rules to select and modify the underlying cause of death. We'll come a bit later on that. We have standard definitions. What is a fatal death? What is a maternal death? You know, so these are very important so that countries report in a standard way. And of course, standing reporting requirements like age groups. It's a 5-year age group or detailed age group. It's specified how and cause list. So, what are we interested in? Is not every cause. Is the underlying cause of death. Is a disease or injury which initiated the trend of morbid events leading directly to death, or the circumstances of the accident or injury or violence which produced the fatal injury. For example, somebody died from gangrene. Gangrene, doctors put gangrene. It's due to what? Most probably due to diabetes. So diabetes is the underlying cause of death, which is important for public health action. You prevent the diabetes first, then you prevent the gangrene. That's a chain of events. So for public health, it's important to have the underlying cause. but for clinical purposes in the hospital, they will know what they're treating the people for. Gangrene, how much it's costing them, you know? The public health, we need to know the underlying cause. So there's also selection rules. In this case, if there's an injury, code to the external cause of the injury as the underlying cause of death. For example, you have a head injury, leg fracture. So the external cause could be either a car accident, a fall from stairs, or tsunami, you know? So this is the external cause. What happened? Most doctors don't put the external cause, they just put the injury. Then you lose the information. An example, here is a death certificate, and you see a patient or somebody brought to the hospital died from intracerebral hemorrhage. That's the immediate cause, due to a fractured skull. Due to this, and the cause was he was a pedestrian hit by a car. So the rule applies. You would say this is the underlying cause of death, is the road traffic accident, and the code from the ICD book would be B03. So every country in the world uses the same code. That's why all the data that I receive from countries, I can give it to Kachan. Kachan can compare. So you need this comparison, you need the standards. So in this case, even the person had HIV, we ignore it because the rule said when there's an injury, code to the external cause. So injury and external cause, in fact, is the most important cause, I would say. You look first before you decide of the others. That's data, sorry, from example of data from bio-registration data, or we go to civil registration. You have countries like Australia, France, Mauritius, Mexico, and Venezuela. You can see France is in green from 1980 to 2016. And Australia is in blue. They're coming down, the trend coming down, because they have a good VR system. We can monitor the trends. Monitor the trends, they use the same codes, you know, we monitor. And you have the countries in red, which is Mauritius, you know. In the early 80s, people don't have many cars, and that became a very rich country because of tourism, you know. So everybody has 2 or 3 cars. And then you can see how the road traffic deaths keep increasing starting 1990. So they have a very good CRBS system, and you can monitor these kind of changes over time and allow the government to take actions immediately. So as I mentioned, the vital registration data monitor trends over time, and can be real-time data, is not paper-based. It is all electronic. You can have a death recorded, and that can be monitored on a daily basis, every death, if it's in an electronic form. Example of Mexico. Look at this, Mexico in 1960. The group 1 is the communicable diseases, which are the infectious diseases. The group 2 is the non-communicable one, which are the lifestyle, NCDs, cancer, diabetes. And group 3 is the external cause of injury, which include road traffic deaths. In 1960, you see the one circle, the external cause is very low. As the countries get richer, it goes up. In here. And at the same time, the blue line, which is the infectious diseases, kept decreasing because improvement in immunization, maternal care, you know. So that's why CRBS data is really useful for this type of monitoring of the population of your country. And even to the lowest administrative area, you can monitor. That's the advantage of CRBS data. I took it from Kenya, from the annual statistics report, showing the highest counties with the highest and lowest percentage of deaths registered at home in 2013. You can see, because CRBS is the registrars are present in every county, so you're able to catch the very small area situation, which an estimates won't be able to do. Modeling is great, but modeling is for the country. It doesn't go down to the lowest administrative area. So challenges exist. Of course, you need more government commitment. There's a ministerial meeting every 2 years in Africa, or every year. There'll be one happening next year in Zambia. The last one was in Mauritania. Ministerial meeting on CRBS. So many ministers go there and they're committed to improve the CRBS system. Momentum is there. That's why we should build up the momentum. But there are challenges. CRBS system is complex. Sometimes the framework is not there. You have to change the law and that takes time. But gradually you get the information saying the importance of CRBS. They start, you have to set up a committee in the health sector, the Ministry of Justice, the Civil Registration Department, Ministry of Interior, if you use a national ID together, so it's a complex system and a lot of commitment from each sector to be able to move that agenda forward. At the global level, we also have to be, for us, for CRBS, to say it's hard to sell. This is hard to sell because I approach a donor and say, could you invest in CRBS in the country? No, it's too complicated, they don't see immediate results, But if you never do anything, nothing would work. We need to start. The health sector, for example, have doctors. You can train them. It's not something difficult, They have an environment to improve something. And gradually, they can move then forward. So, there are some global CRBS initiatives, actually. Many big, like World Bank, launched the Global Financing Facility to improve the health of women, children, adolescents. So if you want to improve the health of women, children, adolescents, you need also to invest in CRBS to get data on number of maternal deaths, number of child deaths, what they die from. And the last one is the Bloomberg Data for Health Initiative to improve recording of deaths. So countries like in Ghana, which is present here, is supported by Bloomberg to improve the CRBS system. And they're present in 20 countries in the world. So that's all. Session 2 is in the afternoon, for those who are interested. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doris. That was excellent. Now we have Dr. Daniel Kobos from the Swiss Tropical Public Health Institute, and he's the guru of many things, verbal autopsy, death certification, but today the subject will be on
systems.
Systems. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the guru of many things means the guru of nothing, actually. Can you? Yeah. So now is the right presentation, after 3 times. So hello everyone. As Asa said, I'm Daniel. I work at the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute, and so we come from the academic side of the world. So we are a university, and we are part of I'm a physician by profession, but I've been working in health systems for the last 20 years already. That's kind of crazy for me. My birthday was yesterday, by the way. I'm part of a health systems and policies research group, and what we try to do is to understand systems, to understand health systems, and to support countries to bring tools, different approaches to see the system as a whole, not as a fragmented part of different elements. So what we are part also of the Bloomberg Data for Health initiative, and we have what has been called the CRBS Innovation Hub. So what we are trying to bring again is we are bringing tools and approaches that will help countries improve their CRBS system from a systems perspective. So when we talk about information, we usually want to show the Finnegan laws of information, and I've heard so many times this. So in this room this morning, everyone was complaining that they don't have data. We don't have the data. We need this data. We need that data. And this is true. We need data. But the thing is, usually the data that we are asking for is not the data that we need. And I agree with Veronica in the first presentation that it's not just about having data. It's having data for action, to do something, to make decisions. It's not having data for the sake of having indicators, collecting information. And in the health sector, we see this so many times. Like countries are swamped with indicators that need to collect, report, analyze, and it's not efficient because they are not making decisions based on that data. And the final thing is that the data that we need is not available. So we usually need to improve the information system to get the data that we really need. So we need to bear that in mind. And the thing is that with the Sustainable Development Goals, We are in has been called the data revolution, so everything will be measured, and everything must be measured. And countries at the national level and at the global level, there is this pressure to demonstrate movement towards the sustainable development, to achieving the sustainable development goals. And part of this pressure end up in getting estimates for everything. So the thing is that, okay, I need to report on this indicator, I don't have the data, so let's model it. Let's do some estimates. Let's bring some people from Seattle for the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, or from Geneva, to do some models on the number of road traffic deaths. And there was a comment published on Lancet at the beginning of the year, raising some concerns about these models and these type of estimates. It's not that they are bad, it's the best that we have, but it's not good enough. Doris raised some of the problems of this model. They are national level, they are based on assumptions, the data that they use, if it's bad quality data, you will get a bad quality estimate. So it really depends on the data that you countries have and you countries collect. And then as Niels Bohr pointed out, prediction is very difficult, mainly about the future. So actually, if I were the Minister of Health or the Minister of Transport in any country, I wouldn't like to report estimates cooked in Seattle or in Geneva or somewhere else. I would like to have my data disaggregated at the local level for the different indicators that are relevant for me. And this is what we are trying to work on. And we see number of deaths, number of births, and the cause of death as the most basic information for health planning and for planning in general at the government level. And this only comes from civil registration data, civil registration and vital statistics data. And as Richard Horton from The Lancet pointed out a few years ago, the CRBS has been one of the most critical failures in development. So actually, CRBS has been neglected forever, actually. Now there is a momentum, as Doris was pointing out, there are some initiatives, but still, there is a long way to go. And as you see, this is the same Sustainable Development Goals, and you see that 15 of these SDGs require a functioning CRBS system to be measured. 24 SDG targets depends on CRBS data, and 45 SDG indicators require CRBS. So you either have your civil registration and vital statistics system up and running, or you will need estimates for all of this, which is fine, but it could be better. And actually there is one specific indicator in the SDG for road traffic deaths, and countries will need to report internally and at the global level these indicators. So we have some time to strengthen the CRDS system. It's not like donors believe that CRDS, it takes time, it's so difficult, so expensive. It's not really based on evidence, that statement. And another thing that is happening in countries, and Doris also pointed out, is that the mortality profile in countries is changing so much and so rapidly that the models cannot keep up with that changes. So the crude death rate is dropping in many countries. The proportion of communicable, non-communicable, and injuries is changing in years. Actually, never in human history, the mortality profile has changed so much. So models are good, and we thank you for all the models, but we want real data. We want the data from the civil registration system. But this is the picture of the world. The Vital Statistics Performance Index is one way of measuring how CRDS systems perform. And you see, well, you can see the African continent. Most of it is empty, so we don't have almost any data, or very, very useful data. The other part is red. We have our South African colleagues here laughing now, and really proud of being green there. But it's true. It's one of the few countries that has a strong CRDS system in Africa. So there is a lot of work to be done. And from a systems perspective, so now, because I'm sure that you know that, okay, the situation is not good. So what? So what we think is that every system is designed to produce the results that it's producing. So if, let's take Ghana, that we will use them as, they will be part of the workshop this afternoon presenting their experience. So if Ghana is, I think is red there, means that the system in Ghana is designed to be red in that one. If you want to change from red to green, you need to change the system. You need to change the information system. And related to the observatory, it would be interesting to know how, it's not only about data, it's also about the system that produces the data. So how this link is going to be done and how this will work out. But from our perspective, what we've been doing so far is to look at the systems, and we've done it in 20 countries already. Because from our perspective, we will say, okay, but what is the problem with CRBS system? How can we compare systems? So we borrowed one methodology from the private sector, it's enterprise architecture, business process management or mapping. And we said, okay, let's apply this methodology in these 20 countries. And let's see what's coming up. Okay. So we invited countries to come to do the mapping, and we mapped the system since someone dies in a rural community in Ghana until it's a +1 in the vital statistics, everything that happened in the country, in the different system by the different actors. And the first conclusion was like, okay, every system is different. And we knew that. The system in Ghana is completely different to the system in Indonesia, completely different to the system in the Philippines. But we found some common ground, some common problems, or some common flaws in the design of the system. We saw that in all countries, the process to register and include a death in the vital statistics followed 10 steps. So the death must be notified, then it's registered, then it's certified, then it goes to the vital statistics part, they do some quality checks, and then they publish the vital statistics. And this process was followed in every country. And I'm sure that it is followed in most of your countries. So we had a way of comparing the different countries now. And one of the first things that we saw is that the main problem for countries that they have a low registration coverage, so that they are not registering no deaths, is that the system doesn't know about them. Someone can die on the street, a pedestrian can be hit and die. This person is taken to a funeral home. No one says anything to the police or to the civil registration authority, and this happens in so many countries. Or someone dies in a rural community, you talk to the village chief, you bury the deceased, that's it. No record in the civil registration system. So one of the main parts of the work that we've been doing is trying to understand why those deaths are not reported and how to change the system so that the death is reported, because that's the main thing. I think I'm going to stop here. So, oh no, so we have, this was one of the problems that we found. And then looking like, okay, but we asked countries, okay, but what happened when someone dies here? So, and they say, oh no, they go to this, they go to that. So what we found is that this death is recorded in many places. So the details of the death, the name, age, sex, all the details to register the death and the cause of death, they are there. They are in the cemetery, they are in the funeral home, they are in the health sector. But the problem is that this information do not come to they are in the police record. But this information is not integrated with the civil registration system. So actually now what we are working on is try to bring these different sources of information and integrate them so that everyone has the full picture. Because from the example that Doris was showing before, someone that a pedestrian is hit by a car, they go to the hospital, and this person died 3 days later from sepsis, from an infection. In the police records, this person will be alive. But in the health sector, this person will be dead. And probably in the civil registration records, there is no information about this person. So if we integrate the information of these different, of just these 3 different actors, everyone will have a more accurate information. So 2 main messages from my side of after looking at 20 countries, notification of the event, how to capture the event. Countries need to work on that. And second, integration of different sources. And what we bring is process mapping to help countries do that. And we will work on that during the afternoon and tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And to add to what Daniel said, notification very important. And remember, when you do the notification, to use the WHO standard reporting form, which is the 2016 death notification form. We call it death certificate, but it's really a death notification form. Using that form, you will be able to deduce the causes of death, even if the physician doesn't write it explicitly. Now, we still have, first, let me remind you that after the lunch break in Karam 1, there's a continuation of this discussion. You are all most welcome to participate and attend. There will be more such valuable information and more detailed information. 2 o'clock in the Karam 1 hall. And we still have 20 minutes, so if any of you have questions, please raise your hand. Okay. So maybe the speakers want to come up on the stage so that they can address the questions. Introduce yourself, sir, and give the question. You just ask the question and introduce yourself, and they will answer. Go ahead.
Bonjour, je présente. Bonjour, je présente l'association Tariq Salama, Ijaya d'Algérie. Donc, en écoutant, d'abord, je tiens à vous remercier pour votre communication, qui sont si enrichissantes. L'OMS a parlé hier sur les statistiques des victimes de la circulation routière. Elle a donné des chiffres effarants. C'est 1 250 000 victimes et avoisine à 50 millions d'accidents. Donc, elle a parlé aussi que 90% de ces victimes, malheureusement, c'est dans des pays à revenus faibles ou intermédiaires. Donc des revenus faibles ou intermédiaires, la majorité de ces victimes. Et malheureusement aussi que nous sommes le premier forum africain, donc 90% de ces victimes aussi, c'est en Afrique avec 2% de parc automobile dans le monde. Donc je pense qu'il faut réfléchir tous ensemble d'accompagnement pour les pays africains. Si vous permettez, je vais prendre 1 minute ou 2 minutes de plus. Vous avez parlé dans la communication, on n'a pas eu le temps de poser des questions dans la communication précédente au niveau de la salle de conférence. On a parlé des victimes de la circulation routière. Je pense que, si vous permettez, que je ne vais pas monopoliser la parole, mais je vais essayer de faire quelques recommandations parce qu'on est en atelier de travail, donc on est obligé aussi de donner certaines propositions, certaines recommandations qui seront utiles et peut-être qu'elles sont mises en valeur pour sortir exactement des recommandations fiables pour ce forum. Donc, il y a 3 volets que nous poussons. Donc, il est impératif de réfléchir comment les fructifier. Avant tout, c'est le volet de secourisme. Donc, on doit réfléchir comment former les gens dans le secourisme. Ça, c'est très important. Parce que le premier et la première victime, ou le premier et qui est sur le lieu d'accident, quand même, c'est un sauveur potentiel pour l'accidenté. Mais s'il dispose des gestes, de connaissances, comment il doit prendre en charge cette victime, donc c'est très très important. Et malheureusement, les statistiques apportent d'elles-mêmes que la mauvaise prise en charge du lieu d'accident, elle est évaluée à plus de 50% du décès. Donc, il faut réfléchir que les conducteurs doivent doter d'un diplôme de secourisme, parce que c'est très important de donner les secours. Un conducteur, il est tout le temps témoin de l'accident. Le deuxième volet qui est aussi important, si vous permettez de le dire, c'est de créer des centres de régulation contre la prise en charge des urgences médico-chirurgicales. Malheureusement, certaines villes ne disposent pas de ce centre de régulation. L'accidenté, souvent, il est malmené d'un établissement à un autre, donc le temps est tellement important pour l'accidenté. Malheureusement, dans je dirais la majorité des pays africains, il ne faut pas se voiler la face, mais ces centres ne sont pas disponibles dans la majorité de nos villes et la réalité, elle est amère. La troisième proposition, si vous permettez, il est temps de réfléchir sur l'urbanisme de nos villes. Il n'y a pas accès pour l'accidenté. Nos villes, elles sont étouffées avec une mauvaise urbanisation, donc il n'y a même pas d'accès et pour secourir un blessé. Donc ce volet aussi, j'aimerais bien qu'il soit développé. Donc comment organiser nos villes pour prendre en charge ce cheminement, parce qu'on a le blessé, c'est un facteur de temps, donc il a besoin qu'il soit acheminé plus vite que possible pour qu'il soit sauvé. Voilà mon intervention. Je vous remercie.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for these valuable recommendations. Do we have more feedback from the floor, questions or comments?
Thank you. First, I have a question for Daniel. Good presentation. I think I'm happy that South Africa is green. One comment that I had was that you spoke about that the data that we have is not necessarily the data that we want. And I'm thankful for that, but at the same time, you didn't define what is good data. And I think that's a problem. I think that generally, whenever we speak about data, we don't talk about from the analyst perspective. I'm a researcher from the University of Cape Town, and I work with data for 3 years now. And every time I work with data, something or the other is missing. That's because I want a specific data, but I don't get it. For instance, right now I work with childhood injuries. And I work with the teaching hospital, Red Cross Hospital. And they collect minute details such as where did the child die? Did they die near the home or near the school area? Did the child die in a low-income area or a high-income area? And suddenly when you start looking at the specifics, you know who is the target. Another example is whenever we have the world report, it says passengers 30 or 40% die. But which passenger? Was it the private car or was it the public transport? And that kind of data can make such a big difference on really determining who do we need to target. Because one of the biggest problems in Africa is that we have a low road safety budget. That's the reality of it. And therefore we need to target certain groups. So I think that one of the most important aspects is defining what is good data. The second part is more for comment. Road traffic crashes, they are very interesting. It's a very interesting name. When you say road traffic crashes, in Africa suddenly you start putting road and you think that it's a transport problem. But it's not a transport problem, it's actually a public health issue. And I think that in order to achieve what we want to achieve, we need to make sure that people are educated on that aspect to define it as a public health issue. Because when you define it as a public health issue, it's not only the Department of Transport that needs to be involved, then you have the Department of Health that needs to be involved, you have the Department of Education in case of childhood injuries, and then you have other stakeholders that come in. And when you get all this data together, that's when you can make an impact. So I think the definition of road traffic crashes in the Africa aspect is very different. And that can be tackled through education. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. We will take 2 more questions and allow the experts to respond. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Oui, merci. Ce que je voudrais juste dire, c'est juste 1 minute. Et j'ai remarqué qu'il y a des disparités entre les statistiques publiées. Ça, c'est un fait. Ça, c'est un fait. Et ce que j'ai remarqué ce matin, c'est que déjà, les difficultés que nous rencontrons sur le plan national pour la collecte des données, l'OMS n'en est pas exempté. Donc, l'OMS rencontre les mêmes difficultés. Ce sur quoi il faut insister maintenant, c'est comment est-ce que l'OMS arrive à contourner ces difficultés, parce que vous le savez, le gap entre ce que l'OMS présente et ce que nous publions sur le plan national, il y a toujours une grande difficulté. Et je profite pour dire que c'est ça qui fait que les initiatives en matière d'harmonisation que nous lançons, que quelle que soit la structure de ça vient, on devait encourager ces initiatives-là, parce que lorsque nous allons rentrer dans la phase d'harmonisation, eh bien, nous allons partager les difficultés, les expériences, et on pourra avoir des chiffres qui se ressemblent. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Last intervention from the floor. So we have here one at the back, maybe, and see how we can do. Okay.
Merci. J'ai une question par rapport aux observatoires, puisqu'il y aura une signature du démarrage d'un observatoire pour l'Afrique. Et moi, en tant qu'universitaire, j'aimerais savoir comment va s'articuler la collaboration entre l'université, qui a sa propre logique, et les observatoires en matière de sécurité routière. Et merci.
Okay, so we can, you want to take two more questions? One more.
Yeah, just to say, just to maintain the gender balance. Maybe some women can ask, because I've seen some hands.
Okay, one man, one more.
Because we have balance here, so
okay,
gender
so
balance.
You're next.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, and it should be next.
Okay, thank you. So for me, my suggestion is to have some form of a uniform sort of reporting, because I know, especially once we have the observatory and we are still mandated to report to the WHO, and we still have our in-country reporting systems, I request that as we go forth, the signatories to the African Observatory, then we have a standard reporting system, so that even in our countries, usually agreeing between us and the civil registration and the police and the National Transport and Safety Authority, even agreeing on who is the owner of this data, or which data do we take as the national data, it's usually a problem. And that explains at times what we see going to the international forum. So I think for this observatory, if we are able to adopt a standard reporting system, adopt standard indicators, and that these are the same indicators that we report both to the observatory and to WHO, then it would really improve the quality of our data. Thank you.
Je vais être très courte. Moi, en France, j'ai le problème inverse, c'est-à-dire qu'il manque 300 morts dans le Civil Registration Vital System concernant la route, parce que les médecins mettent la cause de décès et pas les underlying causes. Donc, qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire pour moi, parce que c'est entre 300 et 500 morts par an qui manquent.
Oui, bonjour. J'ai deux questions. Par rapport aux chiffres, je vois vraiment pas, j'arrive pas à vous suivre, parce que comment l'OMS, elle se base sur les données de l'ensemble des ministères de santé pour planifier tout ce qui est maladie chronique ou autre type de maladie. Et concernant cette thématique d'accidentologie, on prend les chiffres de la police et des autres départements et plus ou moins ceux de la santé. Je pense qu'il faudra quand même se focaliser sur, du moment qu'on se base sur les chiffres de la santé pour l'ensemble des maladies, on devrait en faire de la même chose et être pragmatique et ferme pour l'accidentologie. À travers, à mon sens, et à travers notre association de médecins qui travaillent dans la prévention, et j'en parle dans ma deuxième question, c'est-à-dire créer des centres, comment créer des centres d'appel, des numéros, appeler la protection ou appeler les SAMU, dès qu'il y a appel et qu'on répond, c'est-à-dire l'ensemble de l'équipe va se ramener pour secourir, et bien dès qu'il y a transmission d'appel, il faut que c'est un chiffre déjà répertorié. Et quand il y a décès, il n'y a même pas la problématique des décès, mais aussi des blessés graves. Est-ce que ça dépend des pays d'Afrique, même en Europe, est-ce qu'un blessé grave, est-ce que celui qui a été hospitalisé plus de 3 jours, ou celui qui a été hospitalisé en réanimation, ou etc. Chacun fait comme il veut. Donc il faudra standardiser et normaliser, même au niveau des blessés graves. Alors ma deuxième remarque, c'est vis-à-vis par rapport à Madame, votre intervention tout à l'heure, concernant le rôle de la santé, non seulement après la réponse post-crash, mais il y a un rôle à jouer, c'est la prévention. Et notre association des médecins agréés d'aptitude médicale à la conduite, nous voyons qu'il y a pas mal de choses à gagner en termes de coûts financiers, mais en termes de vie. Parce que les médecins, pas tous dans les pays africains, en tout cas j'ai eu des représentants du Togo, eux, quand il y a la première fois les Togolais, quand ils ont leur permis à 18 ans, et ben, tous les 5 ans, ils refont la visite médicale parce que, justement, c'est une bonne conduite, dépister s'il y a une inaptitude médicale à la conduite. Nous, au Maroc, c'est tous les 10 ans. En Europe, c'est jamais. On a notre permis à 18 ans jusqu'à 60 ans. Il faudra aussi uniformiser cette conduite parce que nous, en notre association, on a fait des caravanes médicales pour les conducteurs professionnels qui étaient aptes, qui avaient leur papier administrativement, qui étaient aptes médicalement, et pourtant on a dépisté des inaptitudes médicales définitives à la conduite. Donc s'il vous plaît, pour la prévention, il y a lieu de faire quelque chose, surtout en matière d'aptitude, pour l'ensemble des médecins et ceux qui sont spécialisés à délivrer cette aptitude médicale. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Very last. I see there are most comments, so there will not be much response, but make it very short.
Merci. Moi, je vais rebondir par rapport à la question des données. C'est vrai, on a vu à travers les présentations qu'il y a une différence manifeste, plus ou moins importante en fonction des pays, entre les données qui ont été déclarées et les données qui ont été estimées par l'OMS. Maintenant, on sait très bien que l'OMS se base sur une formule mathématique soi-disant complexe et compliquée, on ne peut pas comprendre, mais tout à l'heure, vous avez parlé des données manquantes. Est-ce qu'on peut les catégoriser et dire combien de données, des 20% des données qu'on pourrait communiquer aux pays qui sont classés malheureusement au groupe 4 pour qu'ils puissent passer au groupe 2 et récupérer les 80% de réduction de différence en termes de pourcentage. Voilà.
Merci. So we'll start from Daniel. Respond, conclude remarks and so on until we finish with Maria.
That's the aim, that's the end point for many, or the objective for many, the objectives for many countries. Then with regards to the type of data that we need, I come from the research area too, and we love data. We love to have all these aggregations possible and all the nitty-gritty details, and that's required for research. That's needed. What I was talking about is more for the data coming from the routine systems to make decisions on resource allocation at the macro level. And it's included, it's in the SDGs. So the equity component of each indicator to disaggregate in rural, urban, by male, female, age groups, different social determinants of health must be captured in routine systems. But you need to put a limit on the amount of data that you want to collect, because otherwise you will have a huge amount of data that you will not be able to analyze, and the quality will not be very, very good because of the amount. Because what I've seen in countries, at least in the health sector, is that at the end is one person in a rural health facility filling 7 different forms for the 7 different vertical programs. And now road traffic safety, as one of the vertical programs, will own their own data. So what I'm advocating for is to rationalize that. Decide which type of information you need to make specific decisions on your system, and then collect it accurately. But do not collect data for the sake of collecting data, or disaggregate the data for the sake of disaggregating data. every piece of information collected or produced should be useful to make decisions. And if you say, look, in South Africa, we need this, we need to understand which are the vulnerable groups in this area. That's fine. So you should collect that on a routine basis. But in other countries, they may not need that level of detail at this stage. They may need more basic data and strengthen the basic system, and then they will get to the disaggregation. So I guess that it depends from country to country, the type of data that they need, depending on the level of development that they are facing or they want to achieve. And then with regards to doctors not certifying properly, you're right. I'm a physician, and in 6 years of training, the basic training in medicine in Spain, I received like 2 hours on how to fill a medical certificate of cause of death. 2 hours in 6 years. So you see the level of importance that they give to on how to fill the medical certificate of cause of death is really low, at least in Spain, and I've seen this in so many countries. In fact, the mind process that you use to come to the underlying cause of death, that is what is important for us, for public health, is not the same thinking process that you follow to diagnose a patient. It's actually the opposite. So for public health, you're looking for the road traffic accident or crash. In public health, in curative care, you're looking for the sepsis or the infection. So we need to train our doctors on how to do it. And as part of the Bloomberg Data for Health initiative, some of the work that has been done, and Ghana is also an example, is to include training for doctors on how to fill a medical certificate of cause of death. Some countries they have some kind of accreditation for doctors. Every 2 years they need to pass an exam. So now in some of the data for health countries, they going through a training on how to fill a medical certificate of cause of death is required to pass that exam. So there are different things that you can do, but it's mainly based on training your doctors to do a good job filling the medical certificate of cause of death. And
thank you. Pour moi, je vais parler en français en répondant aux commentaires de notre invité, l'association algérienne. Certes, donc c'est mieux que les Africains font eux-mêmes un modèle. Mais le problème, qui va le faire? Il n'y a pas. Donc, par exemple, la plupart de ces réunions-là, on voit les ministres, ouais, ils sont contents, machin, là, oui, on va faire, mais il n'y a pas de suivi. Il n'y a pas de suivi. Ça, c'est pas la première fois. Et il ne faut pas être optimiste, 100%, on va faire quelque chose. Je ne pense pas qu'il y aura. La vitesse comment on travaille, c'est tellement vraiment en Afrique, c'est très lent. Peut-être la sécurité routière n'est pas vraiment une priorité pour eux, mais c'est vraiment très très lent. Mais on est là, l'OMS elle est là pour changer le modèle, pour le dire. On envoie des commentaires, on ne reçoit pas. Par exemple, avant de publier n'importe quelle estimation, on envoie, voici ce qu'on a fait, voici la méthodologie, ce qu'on a fait pour tel pays, voici les données qu'on a utilisées, voici par exemple pour la régression, le modèle mathématique, voici les variables qu'on a utilisées et d'où on a ramené ça. Vous avez des commentaires, on ne reçoit pas, on ne reçoit jamais. On reçoit juste des critiques, ah non, ça c'est exagéré. Non, on ne veut pas, c'est juste que des critiques. On veut travailler ensemble, on veut avancer, c'est-à-dire dites-moi quelque chose scientifique. Vous avez un article à partager avec moi, vous avez une étude à partager avec moi. On est ouvert à étudier ça, refaire le modèle et présenter quelque chose. Et on est toujours là pour travailler avec les pays. Ce n'est pas notre rapport, ce n'est pas le rapport de l'OMS pour critiquer, ah, vous êtes un étudiant mauvais, vous êtes... Non, ça c'est juste pour être proche à la réalité. Le modèle, ce n'est pas parfait, on est toujours en train d'essayer à l'améliorer. Donc ça, c'est le premier but. Mais pour la prise en charge, donc vous avez parlé de la prise en charge, on a à l'OMS un groupe qui fait juste le training pour tout ce qui est l'urgence, comment on doit faire, qu'est-ce qu'on doit, comment on doit déjà juste à l'urgence, comment on doit classifier donc les plus urgents, c'est-à-dire dans les blessés ou bien presque les cas graves, comment on doit faire. On a toute une unité à l'OMS dans mon département, sous la direction de Étienne, juste qui présente ça. On est toujours, il y a ma collègue qui est responsable de ça, elle est ouverte à parler avec les pays, mais on est toujours, l'OMS est un secrétariat, c'est-à-dire il ne force pas, elle n'a pas le droit de dire à tel pays, tu dois faire ça, tu dois faire ça. C'est-à-dire l'initiative doit venir du pays. Donc sans l'initiative des pays, on ne peut pas intervenir. On connaît ce qu'il manque dans tel pays, mais si on reçoit des commentaires, on reçoit on a besoin de ça, le problème de fond, ce n'est pas un problème, on peut chercher ailleurs, on peut trouver, il y a pas mal de donateurs qui veulent travailler avec les pays, mais la plupart des pays ne sont pas sérieux. C'est-à-dire, dès qu'ils commencent à avoir vraiment l'argent et tout ça, la plupart, ils finissent même pas le travail. Ils abandonnent, ou bien ils prennent l'argent, ils achètent des autres trucs qui ne sont pas intégrés dans le programme du modèle. Une autre chose, par exemple, j'avais entendu que le modèle, les données de la santé changent. Le modèle de la santé change. Donc, un petit juste exemple, c'est-à-dire pourquoi on change, parce qu'il manque des données. Si on prend par exemple juste les données du Maroc, les données du Maroc de la santé qu'on a reçues au niveau de décès, des accidents, on a reçu 700 décès. Par contre, la police, il montre 3400. Si on regarde ça, pour répondre aussi à votre question, si on veut juste comparer, ils sont où cette différence? C'est le même pays, le même groupe, donc il y a déjà plus que 2000 décès de différence. Et d'après, dès qu'on commence la discussion avec les responsables, ils disent non, chaque décès, un médecin doit signer que vraiment c'est un décès et la police doit accorder. Donc, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a déjà un lien. Il y a quelque chose qui manque dans le système. On ne peut pas se baser sur ça pour donner une estimation. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on change, on utilise toutes les sources de données disponibles et tous les modèles qui sont vraiment fiables jusqu'à maintenant. Donc, on essaye de les changer. Et voilà, donc les difficultés de collecter les données, c'est pas facile pour collecter les données, surtout en Afrique, on sait ça. Donc on mentionne pas mal de fois que c'est pas facile de collecter les données, surtout en Afrique, parce qu'on a remarqué ça. C'est pour ça qu'on essaie un peu d'aider, suivant ce qu'on peut, aider les pays pour améliorer les données, pour avoir au moins une base de données disponible, soit en ligne, parce qu'il y a pas mal de ressources qu'on donne, qui sont disponibles gratuitement pour les pays, les formations, tout ça, pour mettre les données dans un système en ligne pour tout le monde peut accéder. Et donc ça facilite un peu le travail pour les gouvernements. Et pour les rapports, on est toujours en train de mentionner, ça c'est ce qui était rapporté par le pays et ça c'est ce qui était estimé. C'est-à-dire estimé, c'est-à-dire c'est la responsabilité de l'OMS. C'est-à-dire s'il y a un problème, c'est l'OMS qui prend la responsabilité. Mais ce qui est rapporté, donc c'est ça le pays ce qui rapporte. Donc, comme on a dit, donc ça c'est, moi j'aimerais bien que la plupart des participants participent cet après-midi et demain, donc juste pour voir comment on peut améliorer les données, comment on peut juste changer, ou bien s'il y a juste 20% de différence entre les différents secteurs, ou bien plus que ça, comment on peut avoir à capter ce manque de données. Merci.
I will speak in French, I think, following. Donc, pour répondre à la question de la France, vous dites que vous manquez 300 décès dans les données de l'état civil par rapport. Je sais que les pays qui ont adopté le système français, en France, Tunisie, Maroc, le volet sur les causes des décès, il est dissocié des données démographiques. C'est-à-dire pour préserver la confidentialité de la personne décédée, les causes des décès sont uniquement pour les raisons statistiques. Donc, à l'état civil, bon, ce n'est pas une information qui va être divulguée à tous les d'autres agences. C'est uniquement pour les buts statistiques. Donc, vous n'aurez pas le nom de la personne, ou le nom vous n'aurez pas. Peut-être vous aurez la résidence, où les décès ont été enregistrés. Donc, dans ce cas, c'est compliqué. Il faudrait vraiment avoir un dialogue avec tous les différents partenaires. Et expliquer que ce que vous voulez, c'est vraiment avoir un but statistique, quoi, pour arriver à avoir un chiffre. Dans certains pays, ils ont la carte d'identité, un numéro d'identité. Donc c'est ça qu'on essaye de promouvoir. Si vous avez un numéro d'identité, National ID, comme on dit en anglais, donc de faire ce lien, de lier toutes les données afin de pouvoir dire que c'est la même personne qui est enregistrée, ou ceux qui sont manquantes. Mais s'il n'y a pas de moyen de faire de lien, c'est assez compliqué, il faut dire. Donc je conseille de voir vraiment dans les... Je pense qu'on veut savoir dans quelle province il y a ces données manquantes. Et donc de travailler, peut-être qu'il y a certains médecins qui doivent être reformés, c'est surtout la formation des médecins. Et puis on a une cause dans le CIM, donc la classification intérieure des maladies, qui disent cause inconnue, cause violente inconnue. Donc ces causes violentes inconnues, il faut quand même revoir pour quelles raisons ils ont mis ces causes inconnues. Donc je pense qu'il faut travailler sur ces décès qui sont causes inconnues. C'est rare qu'en France il y ait une cause inconnue, c'est surtout quand une cause violente. Ça doit être soit noyade ou accident de la route, soit un traumatisme, soit une chute, donc il y a une cause. Donc, aussi pour les pays en Afrique, c'est vrai que le système de l'état civil, les données, on les a que pour 5 pays d'Afrique, l'Égypte, l'Afrique du Sud, je veux dire les données complètes, hein. L'Égypte, l'Afrique du Sud, Seychelles, Maurice, et puis le reste, c'est des pays, c'est des données incomplètes. Tunisie, Maroc, c'est incomplète. Pour d'autres pays d'Afrique, c'est uniquement des données qu'on reçoit des hôpitaux, même pas de l'état civil. Donc vraiment, il y a un travail de fond à faire. Il y a une grande responsabilité au niveau de tous les partenaires pour travailler dessus, pour vraiment aider les pays africains à avoir un système d'état civil qui puisse répondre à ce besoin de statistiques pour pouvoir aider et éviter tous ces morts sur la route.
And I will speak in English. And since we are losing people because of lunch, I will not address specific questions. The 2 or 3 that are still open, I will go to the persons and explain. But the one thing I would like to address is the issue of specific recommendations, specific actions in Africa. It is my understanding that today's morning, this workshop is the first time civil registration vital experts from WHO and around the world sit next to road traffic experts from Africa to deal with a common problem. And so my plea and my hope is that at the end of this joint session, you working on improving data systems recognize that road injuries might serve you as a leverage point to raise concern on improvements of data systems around the world. There are not that many, but there are some additional economic resources to drop the dramatic number of road traffic deaths. So what a better alliance than to recognize that by improving vital registrations when it comes to road traffic victims, you will be improving vital registration systems in general. And I would hope and beg that no African so-called road traffic expert ever again puts in doubt the importance of having sound and reliable data systems, which will not appear by magic, which will not appear by virtue of a religious appearance. They will only be developed with a joint collaboration of the 2 teams. And so this was the hope with which we created this workshop. This afternoon, those mostly invested in vital registration improvements will be in one room, but they are welcome. They welcome the drop-by of some of us as we see fit. The rest of us will continue to talk on observatory, and we welcome you anytime you want to come. And I'm very pleased to announce that this being the first joint workshop ever is to be the first of a series of workshops, and that in the first half of 2019 there will be a WHO multi-country workshop to be celebrated in Africa with representatives of the Transport Ministry and the Health Ministry, or whomever most appropriate, to sit and go in detail through the traditional vital registration improvements and the alternative vital registration improvements. And so I do hope that you stay tuned for the news on this workshop. It is one of the work plan items of the African Road Safety Observatory as we are developing it. And I don't know that I will personally be involved in it, since you can only go to so many places, but I wish there is a perfect attendance and a perfect participation, because indeed this is the type of long-term investment that needs to be built, but it needs to start so that maybe 10, 12 years from now we can begin to collect the fruits. If we don't put the first steps forward, we will never reach that point, and we will forever be complaining once from another that we are not using the right data set. So thank you very much. There was the expectation that we would take a group picture. Maybe we should still take a group picture of the resistant individuals who lasted until 220, just for memory's sake, if you don't mind. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you very much. Remember, 2 o'clock in the account one, if you want to continue, especially those from the transport sector, we are very welcome and very invited to come and join us. Thank you. We can have the group picture here.